That's me. I was really excited to see what the video looked like. That's me, yay! Thank you for coming, you guys. I know you guys have got a lot of really great other options to come to, so thank you for coming to my party here. And then I'm having another party at 6, and everybody has to come to that one because otherwise they'll lock you in and like shoot you upon leaving. So I know you're going to be there. Welcome to this. We're getting to the tail end of the conference day. So I'm glad that you guys are all still awake and ready to take in some new information. There is no code in this presentation, for which I'm sure at this point you're probably starting to be grateful. So just wanted to warn you about that. I want to talk about some things, and I'll talk a little bit more about creativity later on today, but this is kind of like the intensive, like, kind of geek out on creativity talk. But as developers, I feel like one of the things that gets overlooked is creativity, and a lot of times people who are developers, such as yourselves, don't necessarily consider yourselves as creative. So I want to kind of give you some pointers and some tips and stuff on how you can kind of shift that and start getting your brain to do its creative thing a little more easily. I'm Denise Jacobs, and you know we're at the Trondheim Developer Conference, and that the hashtag is TDConf, but just in case you didn't know, it's there. And the hashtag for this talk is Hack Creativity. So, as an intro, just to give you a little bit of background about me and kind of why I do this, is that I kind of came from a family of people who were very kind of creative and inventive. My father used to build experimental aircraft, which means that when I was growing up in the garage, there was an airplane instead of a car. I'm serious. There was an airplane, and my father actually built 3 airplanes in his lifetime and flew all of them, and he built them by hand from scratch. That's not a usual thing. And my mother used to make stuff, and my sister was a fine artist, and so personally, being the youngest in the family, I always wanted to fit in and be creative as well, but I just really didn't know if I was a creative person, and so I kind of binge created and did all kinds of different things. And even though I did all of this stuff, I was still afraid. Am I really still truly creative? And I was kind of afraid that I wasn't. But after writing my book, The CSS Detective Guide, I had this major epiphany. And this major epiphany was that we're all creative. We all have this power for creativity, and if we harness this power, we kind of embrace it and recognize it, then we can use that as a force for a lot of good and a lot of change, and also just really feel great doing it as well. And so that actually was the thing that precipitated me shifting my focus from being a front-end web developer and designer to becoming what I am now, a creativity evangelist, and also the founder of my newly founded company, The Creative Dose, which is a creativity and innovation collective. So, now that I've said that, let's get down to business. So, here is kind of the state, I think, of the creative union, and especially with regards to how you can kind of use your creativity in the workplace or how you actually can't. So, what is our most important? I'm asking you this question, so I would appreciate a response of some sort. Just telling you ahead of time, audience participation time. So, what's our most important tool for creating? What have we got? What are we working with? Brain. You guys are so good. You're like, because it's in the title. Thank you, very astute. Yes, our brains are actually our most powerful, most potent tool. And I feel like a lot of times, though, the problem is that we've got all of these forces that work against us to keep us from using our brains really well. Like managers, for example. Henrik was talking about in just the talk the other day how managers come and start putting balls in everybody's hands, and it's like, this actually doesn't work. This goes completely against what we can do, how we can do what we do well, right? Not only managers, but then you've got kind of the company at large. You have bureaucracy. Maybe you have really great ideas, but the bureaucracy prevents you from sharing them, or the culture of your team prevents you from sharing them because nobody in the team really shares ideas, and if they do, the first thing that happens is phew, they shoot it down out of the ground, out of the air, almost before it's out of your mouth. If you're independent and you're not working at a company, you have your own company like myself, then sometimes you have clients that need to be educated and are very demanding and don't really listen to you, and so you've got these great ideas, and then they've got their ideas, which sometimes aren't so great, and then you have to work with those. Then we have time pressures, and we're all familiar with the time pressures. The deadline changes, the scope changes, something changes, and then you don't really have the time to like really dive in and really get in there and get on with the thinking. And so this really leaves you in a place, I think, where we're kind of oppressed, like creatively. Our brains are kind of oppressed, and we're kind of just like going through the motions. We're like puppets on strings, but we're not really tapping into this great creative potential that we all hold, right? And then I say that means that it's like, Houston, we have a problem. Now, more audience participation. How do you feel when you're in the flow? How do you feel when you're in the creative flow? Somebody tell me. Great. Okay. You feel great, and what else? Yeah.
Lose track of time.
Yeah, lose track of time. What else? What he said. What else? Focus. Okay, what else? Anything like physical? Yeah. Productive. Anybody feel anything physical or what? Like mentally, what? Excitement, right? It's exciting, but it's also this weird place where you're excited, but you're calm, right? Like you're totally grounded and you're in it, but you're also calm, excited, great, lose track of time, focus, productive, amazing, right? Like the best thing ever. But, and I feel like the other thing is too, because creativity is this process of bringing something out of the realm of the ethereal, i.e. concepts, ideas, whatever. It's like we're alchemists, right? It's like we're taking this thing that actually doesn't have form, and all of a sudden we're kind of having it go through us and has this like really interesting process of transformation, and then it transforms into like something solid, something tangible that you can put your hands on, you can point to, you can say, I made that, right? Sir Kenneth Robinson, who has a really amazing TED Talk and has written several books on creativity, says that creativity is newness produced. And it feels like magic, but it's not magic, it's just magical, right? It's just that amazing sensation that you get, that invigorating and exhilarating, exciting, but grounded feeling that you get. Now, in case you're not sure, by the way, show of hands, how many of you actually do feel like you're creative? Let's see it. Okay, way more than I thought. For those of you who haven't raised your hands, let me just give you this great quote from Bruce Nussbaum, who wrote Creativity Intelligence, that creativity is all about making connections and seeing patterns. And as a developer, is that not what your brain does almost the best, potentially, right? So if you can do that, which I'm fairly about 99.9% certain that you can, then you are creative. So there's a process that I developed. This is a very, very, very shrunk down, truncated version of the process, and I'm going to share with you. But this is kind of what we can do to kind of hack our brains to get in that place that will help allow that creative flow, help facilitate us getting into the creative flow. So first part, emancipate yourself. Second, adjust. Third, practice discipline. Fourth, generate and execute. I'm going to roll through this. So emancipate. Now here's the thing. I feel like we have kind of been victims of this mass hypnosis that tells us that work is hard, and that getting into the flow is hard, and that creativity is for special people. And the truth of the matter is that thinking is one of the main things that we need to eliminate, right? That those things that hold us back from being creative, those are the bad habits that we need to break. There's, again, part of the mass hypnosis that, distractions are just the way it is. Like, people just come up and just start asking you stuff, right? Randomizing you for no reason. So we've got all of these distractions that we have to deal with. They say multitasking is like the normal thing to do, right? You're supposed to be able to do like 62 things at the same time, and that's normal. No, it's not. Our brains actually don't function optimally when we're trying to multitask and we're trying to take care of a lot of things at once. There's actually something called the Zeigarnik effect. And it was discovered by a woman named Zeigarnik, and she basically, I'm going to condense it down for you, but basically the upshot of it is that our brains are a lot like microprocessors. And when we start working on a process, we're working on that process until we finish it. So if you start something, mentally, your brain is processing it. If that process gets truncated somewhere in the middle of it, it's still going, it's still running. And then you can imagine another thing coming, and you're working on that other thing's still running, you're working on the new thing, and then somebody comes and interrupts you and asks you about this. And then you're working on this. And then these two are still processing. And you can imagine during the course of the day how many of those loops, those unclosed loops, are running. And then you wonder why you didn't get anything done, why you can't concentrate, why you can't focus, and why you're tired at the end of the day. This is why. How do you open the task manager? I'll talk about that in a little bit, I promise. So we also have something which I like to think of as communication addiction. I just saw a really great video on Facebook of all places where a guy was doing like spoken word poetry, and he has this whole thing about how we're connected through the web, but we're kind of not connected, and we're still kind of isolated. And we have this thing where when I say we're addicted, I actually literally mean that we're addicted to it on a neurological level. There's something called intermittent reinforcement, which I'm sure you've probably heard. If you haven't, I'm going to tell you about it, that there's a study that they do with rats, and they give the rats, they put them in a cage, they put a little bar, and when the rat hits the bar, they get food. They get a little pellet of food. So the rat's like, great, every time I hit the bar, I get food. Boom. And every time they get food, they get a little squirt of dopamine in their brains. Well, they keep hitting the bar, they keep getting in food, and then the scientists go, okay, we're going to switch this up a little bit. So sometimes when they hit the bar, they get food, and sometimes they don't. Every time they get the food, they get the reinforcement, they get the dopamine, and it goes on and on and on. The rat will just keep hitting the lever until it gets food, and it'll just keep doing it. Same thing with us, I believe, with all of our digital connections. If you've ever been to a casino, and I've actually given this talk in Las Vegas, so it's kind of weird, but in a casino nonetheless. But if you've ever been to a casino, you see there people just sitting there with the slot machines or sitting there doing the thing over and over again, trying to get that dopamine hit. Same thing, if you've ever had situations, and I've been in this situation, but I have to say that I have reached inbox 3, not 0, but 3. I'm very proud. But if you've ever had the situation where you go and you check your email over and over again, hit refresh, did I miss anything? Is anything coming in? Anything now? How about now? How about now? How about now? Then it's the same thing. Every time you get some kind of notification of something, your brain gets a little hit of dopamine that tells you, this is exciting, and it's something I have to deal with, and it kind of puts you in a little bit of crisis mode over and over and over again during the day. Not only that, but then we have really important stuff, which I think of as internalized critical voices. So a lot of times we have this kind of inner dialogue, sometimes louder than others, that are kind of like, depending on how loud they are, become like monsters in your head. And instead of practicing creativity, we practice what I like to call destructivity, which is like creativity's evil twin, right? And so if you've got these evil voices in your head, okay, you're going to make another mistake, oh my God, your code sucks, or you maybe like one time and it couldn't commit, and then it made the team go backwards, and blah, blah, blah. If your demons are such that every time you sit down at the computer, or every time you enter the room to create, your place of creation is going to be way too far, a place too dangerous to enter, and you're not going to want to do it. You're going to have resistance. So one of the things I recommend is recognizing these forms that the inner critic shows up. I like to think of the inner critic as kind of like the troll under the bridge of your subconscious, right? And so one form is imposter syndrome. If you've ever had that feeling like at any moment somebody is going to discover that I don't know what the hell I'm doing, And then I'm probably going to get fired, but I'm just going to make it look good until I know. Or I was really lucky to get this job because I knew a guy who knew a woman who knew a guy and everything, but I really don't know what I'm doing, etc. That sort of thinking is actually indicative of imposter syndrome. Interesting thing about the imposter syndrome, which I like to call the imposter syndrome paradox, is that if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, if you think that you're going to get found out at any time, that you're a fake, that you're a fraud, that you don't really know what you're doing, chances are is that you're actually uniquely qualified. You actually can't experience imposter syndrome without being able to do the thing that you're afraid that you can't do. Weird, but true. Second thing, comparisons. If you find yourself comparing yourself to somebody else, like saying, oh, I wish I, Douglas Crawford, like if I could just be as good a developer as him, I'd be like, whoa, wait, time out. Douglas been in the game for a long time, right? And he's got like his own unique contribution to the industry, and you've got your own unique contribution to the industry. Don't worry about what Douglas is doing. Douglas is, he's solid. You can't compare your insides to somebody else's outsides. You have no idea what has gone on to get somebody to a certain place. And it's really hard to keep focusing on what you're doing when you're trying to think of somebody else. Second, another thing, procrastination. Ooh. A lot of people are just like, oh my God, she's talking to me, please don't look over here. And I talk about this stuff because this is all stuff, frankly, that I have struggled with and that I continue to struggle with, which is why it's important to me, which is why I'm telling you guys about it. So, procrastination, queen of procrastination right here. Procrastination is actually not laziness. Procrastination comes from a sense of not really having a clear idea of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And so you keep kind of pushing it off because you don't want to have to deal with that, and you also don't want to have to deal with any potential failure that comes along with it. Procrastination has a twin sister, and procrastination's twin sister is perfectionism. So actually, incidentally, perfectionism and procrastination actually work together in what I like to think of as an infinite loop, and they just feed each other. So if you're a procrastinator, it's probably because you're a perfectionist, and if you're a perfectionist, you probably procrastinate. All of this stuff, like I was kind of intimated before, is based in a sense of a fear of failure. Fear, the acronym for fear, is false evidence appearing real. Or, as I like to think about this, we don't have to be family friendly, I don't think, fuck everything and run. Now, some cool thoughts on fear. There was a great movie called After Earth, and there was a quote in this which I loved, which is, fear is not real, it's the products of thoughts you create. Danger is real, but fear is a choice. So whenever you're having these moments, especially when you can recognize it, imposter syndrome, comparisons, perfectionism, procrastination, whenever you're having that moment, you'd be like, wait a minute, okay, this is just like another form of fear. What am I afraid of? And then if you hit that head on, you can probably get to the bottom of it and you can probably diffuse it. So my hack for you then is what I call becoming a fear alchemist. This is so we can manage our anxieties and so that you can actually stop torturing yourself and get down to creating, right? So, banishing your inner critic, first thing you can do, and actually Douglas talked about this earlier today in some ways, is using empathy. So if you're creating something for somebody and you're starting to get all wrapped up in, is it going to be right? Is it going to be perfect? Is it going to be this? Is it as good as so-and-so's thing or whatever? Start to think about, like he was saying, focus on the people that you're making it for. Focus on the solution. If you start to focus on that, then you will be so concerned about making it good for them, making it right, making it useful and effective that you won't worry about all the stuff that has to do with your own fears about yourself. Another hack for you is to maintain perspective. You can always say, so what? So I'm afraid, so what? It doesn't mean that I'm going to let this hold me in place and keep me from moving forward. And I'm moving through this fast because I got 11 minutes, and I got so much more to cover. Another one is that your inner critic actually has been developed for a reason, kind of as a protective mechanism by your subconscious. So you can always have your inner critic go and assign it duty to do something else. It's really great when you're editing, when you're refactoring, when you're looking at stuff and you have to give it a critical eye. That is a great time to have your inner critic show up. When you're trying to create something, when you're ideating, when you're coming up with new ideas, it's bad. So tell it to go away. Thank you, don't need you, come back later when I'm going to go through and edit all this stuff. And then usually it'll be like, oh, okay, I got something to do, great. And it'll come back later. Another last one is to reframe failure. There's a great quote by Henry Ford that failure is only the opportunity to begin again intelligently. So think about when you fail, really focus then on learning from your mistakes instead of going like, oh my God, I can't believe I messed up. Oh, I'm always making mistakes. Oh, this is horrible. Okay, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to get better and move on? I'm going to probably skip this, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of, there's an exercise, but I'm going to save it for later. That changing your body actually changes your brain and changes how your brain works. There's a great TED Talk, which I recommend that you guys go and look at, by Amy Cuddy. And one of the things that she says in it is that our bodies change our minds change our behavior, and our behavior changes our outcomes. And so one hack that you can do is to stand in a power pose for 15 to 30 seconds, and that will literally, just doing that physically, will start to change the way your brain works and will actually help you feel more confident. Trust me, Amy Cuddy is a scientist, so she's a very smart person. So that's one thing you can do. Let's talk about adjusting your brain, because that's important. Now, I love that picture. So really important thing is that our brains, like I said, are actually naturally designed to be creative. That is our natural DNA, is to actually create stuff all the time. They call man or humankind the tool maker. Out of all the animals on the planet, we're pretty much the only ones that make tools. Tools come from creativity, need, and then ingenuity applied to that need, right? Now, a lot of times when you hear about creativity and the brain, you hear about left brain versus right brain. And the left brain is analytical and logical, et cetera, and the right brain is spatial and holistic and intuitive and creative and imaginative and all this stuff. But here's the fact of the matter, is that the creative brain is actually a brain that works well together. So the left hemisphere actually takes information and kind of keeps it compartmentalized and kind of stacks it up and stores it. I think of it a lot as memory, memory stacks, right? The right hemisphere is actually kind of more of a network. And what happens is when your brain is working well creatively, it is because your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere are actually communicating well together, and you've got enough the few barriers between the two hemispheres, and then your right hemisphere can kind of go in, get the information that's all stacked up in the left hemisphere, take it, unpack it, and start putting it together in different ways. Now, the interesting thing about this is that a lot of times, like I said, with all of those distractions and managers and time constraints and all that stuff, our brains are not in a relaxed enough place to actually be able to do that. When you're really creative, the parts of your brain that are about monitoring and checking things out and being really analytical and checking, they're all shut off. So here's one thing that I want you to consider. There's one very, very definite thing that you can do that is well within your control. What are our brains producing constantly besides thoughts? What? Information, but what form is it in? Electricity, and electricity comes in what? Batteries. All right, waves, brain waves. So, little brainwave primer here for you. So, 5 different kinds of brain waves. I'm actually going to skip over the ones and just say that the most important one, okay, so 2 of them I'm going to talk about, beta brainwave mode, unless of course you're falling asleep right now, which I hope you're not. But if you are awake and aware of your outside surroundings and all this stuff, you are in beta brainwave mode. Alpha brainwave mode is that really wonderful place that you go into right before you start to fall asleep, sometimes when you're in the shower, when you're taking a walk, when you're very relaxed, and a lot of times when you have those aha moments, you know, when you're just kind of not doing anything and all of a sudden, bam, that idea comes to you and oh my God, I can't believe that, it just came out of nowhere. No, it didn't. Your brain, the processing, that was happening, but the brain was relaxed enough so that all the stuff could happen and fire together. So alpha I like to think of as the gateway to creativity. We are not going to do this exercise, although I wanted to. This, I would say, pretty much like sums it up exactly. Everybody's had this situation, right? Like you're going to sleep and then everything's crystal clear and it's amazing and I can't believe I thought of it, and then you go to sleep. So as a hack, one thing that you can do to kind of get your brain into that alpha brainwave mode, and like I said, you go into it easily, super easily. You can just breathe. If you just sit and you just breathe quietly, close your eyes and breathe quietly for a few minutes, you will start to change your brain and it'll start to go and drop from beta into alpha. Your brain waves will start to slow down. Also, really easy, lay down. Just lay down. Being prone actually forces your brain to actually start going to alpha brainwave mode immediately. It's amazing how quickly it works. Showers, great for this. I actually talked to a guy once at one of my presentations, and he came to me afterwards and he was like, showers work great for me. Sometimes I take showers like 5 times a day. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but it works. And I'm like, hey, whatever works for you, you've got to do that. Another one, daydreaming and spacing out. So you've had that moment, you're looking out the window, you start thinking about something else, and then something becomes clear to you. Or you just kind of like start, you know, having that kind of soft focus, kind of thinking about something but not really thinking about it, and then it becomes clear. Why? Alpha brainwave modes, daydreaming and spacing out. Last one, I believe, is to actually start moving. Your brain actually starts to function better after you've been physical for 20 minutes. So if you go and take a 20-minute walk or something like that, you can actually see the scan that your brain has got this kind of activity before you walk, and it's got this kind of activity after you walk. Another thing that this brain scan doesn't show is that the actually what's called cross-channel movement, so the movement of your body, one side of your body, the opposite sides of your body at the same time, that also helps your brain hemispheres sync with each other and send electrical impulses back and forth to each other more easily. That's why this side is lit up like this. So, upshot of this, when your brain is doing nothing, it's actually doing a tremendous amount. So, I encourage you to intend alpha. And then the last bit, which, you know, in my brain, 30 minutes was like so much longer than it actually is to exercise discipline. So a lot of times we lose focus when we get distracted, sometimes because of external things, but sometimes just because of bad habits that we have. And so one of the things to kind of get yourself on task and on point is to focus on meaningful tasks. That's another thing that actually goes along with procrastination, is when you procrastinate when you don't actually know what, how, and why, you know, why you're doing something. When you have meaning attached to a task, then it makes you more motivated to do it, right? And so there's a great website, Merlin Mann used to have a page on his site that you could go to. It was like called like Focus or something like that. You would go to that page and it would tell you what time it is, and it would be like, is this really what you want to be doing? Get back to what you want to do. Like, do the thing that you need to do. Another hack that I have used to like actually open up creativity for me is to delegate things. So sometimes when you think that you need to do something and you're kind of wrapped up with it, sometimes just the act, even if you don't actually fully delegate it, sometimes just the act of saying, here, I'm just going to give this to somebody else to do it, like just freeing your brain up from that, sometimes that will actually open it up so that you can think about something. So you can do it as a ruse to your brain. Sometimes your brain doesn't know the difference. You can do it as a ruse. You can do it in earnest, and it'll probably help. Another thing is to think about where your space, where you're working. Your brain has a lot of associations with habits and location, right? And so if you have the habit of sitting down at your desk and then like not actually doing a lot of work, but like, searching for things or getting on Facebook, get on Twitter, or, whatever, then your brain associates the act of sitting down at your desk with those activities and not with the activity of actually producing anything. So it's called a habit field by an article written by Jack Ching on a list apart. One thing that you can do is clean up your habit field by making yourself get up when you're distracted and move someplace else. Every time you're distracted and you're not focusing on what you need to do, go move someplace else. When you feel like focusing, come back. And just the act of doing that will make it so that you start separating in your brain, this is the place that I work, this is the place that I'm distracted. Last two things, because I have 38 seconds left, but I'm going to go a couple minutes over, just two. Managing time. So there's a great article called How to Kill Programmer Productivity. Guys, have you guys seen it? Yeah? Who's seen it? Okay, for those of you who haven't seen it, great article. And you are probably really, really familiar with this graph, right? This is what people think happens. Oh, you get interrupted and then you can just get back to work. No, what happens is that you get interrupted and then you lose your flow and then you try to get back and then you get interrupted again and you lose it and you do this. And so your productivity, recovery time, you almost never recover. So one way that you can do this is, and you may use this already, but you can instill the headphones rule. So to keep other people from being distractions for you, instill the headphones rule. The headphones rule is, no headphones, you can talk to me. One headphone, you can talk to me if I like. Two headphones, don't talk to me. I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. Come back later when the headphones are off. Try it, it might work, because people will almost never talk to you when you have headphones on, if you've ever noticed. Another thing that you can do is to try to not just block people distractions, but also try to block digital distractions. For folks who are using Macs, great tool, which is called Hey Focus. If you go to heyfocus.com, it's totally free. I really like it because it's really simple. You just click the little icon that's like this, which is in your menu bar, and it'll keep you from going to distracting websites, things like Twitter and Facebook and Amazon and Gmail and whoever the heck else and you can also put a list of things that you find distracting. And it will send up, if you try to go to one, like you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna look up this thing on Amazon really quick, I need it for my research. It'll tell you, oops, it will send a little page, put a little page up that says, has a nice little aphorism of some sort. And it's like, hey, yeah, great. Get back to work. Another tool that you could use is something called Rescue Time. Rescue Time actually tracks what applications you're using and how long you use them and gives you a productivity score at the end of the day, just so you up your awareness of what you're working on and how, and what you're doing. Other tools for digital blocking. There's Leech Block, Firefox extension, Iderall, and Google Chrome, there's Strict Workflow and Stay Focused. All of these are browsers extensions. Sorry I didn't put any on there for IE because I didn't think anybody was going to be using it. So you can try those out. Last thing is to try to single task, right? If you really focus on single tasking instead of doing that multitasking stuff that we're trying to do, get your headphones going, get your, Hey Focus and whatever, maybe try to do Pomodoro technique. I would have talked about it, but I don't have a lot of time. But when you do focus on a task, focus on the task. Give yourself a time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever it is, and then just do that task and keep yourself going back to it. And the more you do it, the more you'll get into habit to it, and you'll train your brain to do that. I'm going to kind of skip past this. Some stuff, reflow, constraints, capture ideas, all kinds of things, that buddy again, writing things down, sketching them out, talking them out, capturing them, putting them in the same place, prototyping, iterating, design process, flow, etc., etc. Now we get to the end. Now, where before, potentially, you were kind of distracted and kind of like all over the place. Some of these hacks, like I said, this is normally an hour talk, and I actually do this in a day-long workshop, and I talk about the whole process and go into great detail with it, have a lot of interactive exercises and stuff. But you got some stuff to work with, right? Moving forward, some of the stuff will help you start to really focus in on what it is that you do, and get to that place where you can find your flow, and then you can start really getting those ideas out of your head. Not only that, but I believe over this process, which when you have a series of small successes, it's something that's called guided mastery, so that when you get to that, every time you have a success, you feel more bolstered, more confident, and you just keep going forward. The more you do this, the more you will start to either achieve or regain creative confidence. And creative confidence is the confidence that if you encounter a difficult problem, that you have the tools to come up with a solution that nobody has before, that is very unique to you. As what you produce is, in fact, unique. Nobody has anything that you have. If you think about it, honestly, in the history of time, nobody has your DNA, and nobody will have your DNA exactly the way you are. You are completely unique. There is never going to be another one of you. So what you produce, therefore, by definition and by association, is unique as well. So if you hack your habits, like Amy Cuddy's thing said, you'll get different results. And practicing these different habits and getting different results actually has potential to transform not just what you do every day, but then over time, transform your life. Now, I do the work that I do because I love this quote, that creativity makes everyday experiences more vivid, more enjoyable, more rewarding, and that when we live creatively, boredom is banished and every moment holds the promise of fresh discovery. So take these hacks, albeit a few of them, but take them and use them to let all of the good ideas out of your head, okay? So go out there and get your creativity hack on, you guys. Thank you. So, just a couple of things. In case I do a lot of research to support my talks, even if they're only a half an hour long. So if you do want to, they took me off, turn me back on, give me like 1 more minute, turn me back on. Thank you. If you want to look up any of the resources, I save everything to Delicious, and then if you follow me on Twitter, every time I save stuff on Delicious, I send it off to Twitter as well. I have some articles that I've written on creativity, banishing your inner critic, reigniting your creative spark, perfectionism, procrastination, infinite loop, and how to break it. And then finally, go and check out my company, The Creative Dose, and if you want to get a hold of me, that's how. Okay, now I'm done. Thank you.